I'm Nate the Barbarian. I'll let the music go down. There it is. I'm Nate the Barbarian, your humble host and moderator. Welcome back. It's about to get hot. It is about to get hot. Let's get into it. So much to discuss. Broadcasting live from an undisclosed location somewhere in the city of Cincinnati. Let's get straight into it and invite everyone on. Wait. Where's
I
Phil?
thought you said it's
Gotta
from an
have Phil. There
underground
it is.
bunker. Didn't you say that? I thought you said that.
No, not under a bunker. We're kind of close
Okay.
to the Batman cave. That's where we are.
Same
Yeah.
thing. Same thing.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. We got a new face joining us, Jack Grenier. Jack, welcome to the crew. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. Thanks, Nathan. Thanks for having me. Good to see everybody here.
You know, it's funny because, one of my favorite parts of the Cincinnati.com or the Inquirer is the opinion page. You just get a well-rounded sort of like viewpoint, like everything there. And I've been reading your column for some
Excluding
time.
Kevin's columns, if you're saying
Exact.
well-rounded.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Excluding Kevin's,
Thank you.
whatever you want us to call that, but excluding that, I've really enjoyed, what you write about the First Amendment, and I'm glad to finally sort of digitally meet you. Welcome to the crew.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate
Absolutely.
it.
And with that, let me. The people already know these guys, but let me do it anyway. This motley crew. We mentioned Kevin Aldridge, aka the Voice of Reason. How you doing, sir?
I'm good, and I want to wish my wife a happy birthday today. I got to do that. I got to give her a shout out. My always, my rib, my ride or die. Happy birthday. I love you, and I'll be home soon. So you can take my money and go out and spend it on yourself today.
Kevin, I don't know your wife, but I do know this. I know she has the biblical quality of long suffering. That I do know.
She would agree with you on that, and I'm not sure I would argue.
Yeah. Man telling jokes is Phil Hemlich. Hey, Jack, you don't know this.
I do not tell jokes.
We call him Sexy Phil on this show.
Oh, yeah. Jack, I want to welcome you. I will warn you that, except for me, this is a pretty aggressive group.
Okay.
And with a very strong left-leaning tilt. Let's just leave it at that. Okay.
I don't know about that because my man Tarris, Troy Horton, he's like, nah, Troy, welcome. Good to see you, bro, as always.
Jack, I know I just met you, but I'm the only real Republican on here. Phil is a faker. He's a faker. He's a rhino, is what you call him.
Yeah.
Republican in name only.
All right.
We've heard that before. We've heard that before. And to the audience, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate you. We've been getting more and more, I guess, pub. I wouldn't say necessarily for good reasons per se, but it is what it is in the media landscape. So I'm seeing more and more traffic, and a lot of that's thanks to you. I see so many people sharing it. It means everything on Facebook or wherever you may be. It means everything when you share the show. That's how new people find it. So I really appreciate everybody being here. Let's jump straight into it. We got Jack with us, and Jack, you recently wrote a piece about downtown Cincinnati being safe. And let me just share my piece real quick. I want to say this again. I think we have to defend what we have in Cincinnati. Is Cincinnati perfect? Of course not. But do we have great things here in the city? Obviously we do. There's so much positivity, so much energy. And I feel like there's a lot of outsiders and people with agendas that are trying to take advantage of bad things that have happened to certain people and politicize it. But I was downtown. I'm downtown almost every day for various reasons. I was downtown this weekend. It was a beautiful weekend with all kind of events happening. And you wrote about that in a recent column. But give me your thoughts on it, Jack. I mean, about downtown Cincinnati. Is it safe in your opinion? And what do you think about the chatter about the safety of Cincinnati in general?
Well, I think there's a couple of things that what really motivated me to write my opinion. My letter to the editor was a previous letter to the editor from somebody in Kenwood, and I apologize, I can't remember the person's name, but it doesn't matter. But his letter was saying, hey, responding to a column by Jason Williams, who said if the Reds make a playoff push, that'll help the city's reputation and perception and that sort of thing. And this guy said, I don't care if the Reds go 162-0 and the Airborne is downtown. I'm not going downtown. It's not safe, et cetera. And so that really made me want to write something because I worry about this perception will take over the reality. And I think the reality is, as you said, it's certainly not perfect. There is crime. But the reality is that I think this city is safe to navigate day and night. That viral video that I think has been completely blown out of proportion. bear in mind it was 3 a.m. There was clearly alcohol involved. There was antagonism, on both sides of the thing, but certainly, I'm aware of videos that show, one of the people using the N word, and, that person reaches out and really gets things started with a slap. And I think to use that as sort of, emblematic of what downtown is like is ridiculous. And I think it's being used for political purposes, and it's not an accurate portrayal. I mean, last week, my son and I went to FC game at TQL. We took the streetcar up. We walked back and probably walked from what's TQL, like about 12th or 13th ish, down to 5th and Main where I park. And to say that this is not a safe city to walk in, I think it just overblows things. And I think when it's interesting because when you look at percentages and is it up some or down some, but I think again, like aggravated assaults over the course of a year are about 40. Yeah, that's 40 too many, but the odds, just think of all the people downtown, all the nights downtown, the odds of being involved in something like that are.
What about shootings, Jack? Isn't it aren't they at kind of a record high this year for shootings, or am I wrong?
I think shootings might have spiked, and yeah, that's problematic. And I'd like to see more done on gun control. I'd like to see some effort made to go get the guns, and I don't know what that is, but yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate, and certainly that woman that got shot on Republic Street breaks my heart, as do all of the incidents. But again, this sort of dystopic notion that somehow there's roving bands of criminals or something just running through downtown, I think is overblown, and I think it's overblown for political purposes.
Yeah, can I just add on to what Jack is saying too? And I think Matt kind of covered this in a column that he did recently. Matt Mariani, who's a part of our crew as well, and he talked about people have a tendency to overestimate the likelihood of them being involved in some type of assault or crime perpetrated against them because they see so much on television that they feel like somehow or another this could happen to them. And unfortunately, that's been the narrative that's been painted behind the brawl that, hey, this could happen to anybody just walking down the street minding their own business. But I think the thing you got to take into account with most crime is committed with intention against people. It's not as random as most of the time people want to say. If you want to talk about shootings, a lot of the shootings that take place in this city, or what we know of, are sort of like revenge or get back shootings or killings. These aren't random killings where you might have an occasional person who's caught in a drive-by situation or something like that. But most of these people who are shooting and attacking people are doing it with intent. It's not some random or some unknown person who's sort of being attacked. And in the case of the brawl, yeah, all of these folks might have been strangers, but they were strangers who initiated an altercation, within themselves. Most people walking downtown, minding their own business, not messing with anybody, are not going to have a problem with safety downtown. But if you go around poking the bear, getting in stuff that you shouldn't be getting into, then yeah, trouble typically is going to find you. And I think Jack, made that very point in his column. But most people who are just coming downtown to shop, eat, have a good time, if you don't start, nothing won't be nothing. And that is probably like 9.5 times out of 10, right? And so I think people really tend to overplay their chances of being involved in some type of criminal incident.
I want to piggyback and say thank you to Jack for being on the show, one, and for two, you're the first white person that I've talked to in this situation who has explained things the way that you just did. Looking at things subjectively and looking at things from both sides. And I deal with, 70% of the people I deal with in my lifetime through my business and throughout things are white people. The majority of people are like, oh, innocent. Because the narrative that JD Vance put out there for political reasons. So I like what you said. That this is healing. When more people will start thinking of things more subjective, like you just came on here and you've seen what you saw in the video, and you gave a very subjective. Alcohol's involved. It's 3:00 in the morning. The aggressor was not the black. Those are the things that can move us closer to conversations of healing. But I want to say thank you for coming on here. I don't even know you that well, but I'm saying that your intentions feel pure from here.
Well, I appreciate it. Well, the other thing about that letter that I was reacting to is just I was thinking more about it, and I didn't put every one of my thoughts in the letter, but it was just the overreaction, the notion that I'm not. Let's just say that downtown is not as safe as you want it to be. I mean, I don't know. Take an Uber and just drive right up to the restaurant. When you leave, get in the Uber. If you really think it's that bad, there are things to do short of boycotting the downtown area. And so that was another part of the letter that bugged me. But I've heard that from other people that I'll never go. A friend of mine said I wouldn't go downtown at night on a bet, on a dare. And I just, it's crazy. And with that, if you want to see downtown deteriorate, don't go down there and convince your friends not to go down there. And then it'll really spiral.
Well, it's kind of a chicken or the egg thing, though, isn't it, Jack? Because, I mean, you're saying that, if you want to make downtown safe, go down there. But on the other hand, people read about these kind of incidents, and I think it's pretty normal for them to be hesitant to come downtown.
But I think,
well, I suppose, but I mean, I think that's the job of hopefully the media. And I know Kevin does a great job in, counteracting some of the stuff, because there's people in the media that don't do a great job. And I don't want to name names, but I think we can probably guess, the big one I'm talking about, that sort of perpetuate this stuff. And I think it's irresponsible. And again, I mean, something bad may happen to you. There's no doubt about it. But your odds of being in a car accident on your way downtown are probably better than something happening to you downtown. So again, are you not going to drive because there's car accidents? I don't know. But again, my point is this sort of, it's this black and white. Well, I'll never go downtown because that's the only way I'll be safe. That's just dumb. And it's not logical. If you really feel uncomfortable, but you want to eat at Jeff Ruby's or you want to go someplace in the OTR, I mean, again, I would just say there's ways to do it that, if you don't want to walk from TQL to Main Street, which I did and had no problems. Again, there's the streetcar, there's Uber, there's things to do. But, that was the other thing that really bothered me was this sort of, oh my God, the only solution is to never come downtown. It's just,
but Jack, if you have to Uber because you are afraid to walk the streets, that really is not a very good sign, right?
I knew that was
coming.
That's a personal.
Excuse me. If you have to tell people, hey, we have a lot of crime, but just be sure you Uber there so you don't have to walk. I'm not sure that's a
and the Russian victims were waiting for a lift.
But that's not the message, Phil. The message is not that there's a lot of crime, because the reality is that the thing that people are afraid of, and again, as Jack said, it's not that there's not any crime, but this notion that you can't walk down the street in downtown without being assaulted is just an absolute fallacy. It's untrue. It's inaccurate. And anybody who perpetrates that, and I don't understand people in the business community downtown who perpetrate that. You essentially cut your own.
Nobody's saying there's 100% chance, but the question is, what is the percentage?
No, but that's what. The percentages aren't even high, Phil. The percentages aren't even high. I just told you that probably 9.5 out of 10 times, if you come downtown, nothing is going to happen to you. Especially if there are large groups of people. To Jack's point, the more people you have downtown, the less likelihood of you being involved in any kind of altercation, because when people clear out, who else is going to fill in those gaps when you don't have people downtown utilizing the services, going to restaurants, et cetera, et cetera? Here's the illogic of it. I know thousands of people who go to Bengals games, right, every season. I guarantee you that you've been to a Bengals game where you've seen.
I know some who even go to away games.
I know you've been to a Bengals or a Reds game or something where you've seen some drunk fans get into an altercation at one of those sporting events. real fans are not going to be deterred from showing up and going back to those games because there was a fight in the stands or in the parking lot or whatever. And if people tell you that's the case, they're lying because they show up every Sunday to go see Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase.
Even if they bring their kids, that's not going to bother them?
What's that?
Say they bring their small children with them and they see a bunch of rowdy, drunk people getting into fights. You don't think they're going to think twice about going to that game with their kids?
Well, sure. That's not anything that you would want to have your kids around. And certainly, the Bengals would do everything that they can and have to make sure that they create a safe environment. But I think as Nathan has said many times on this show, people gonna do what they're gonna do, especially when alcohol is involved. So the best you can do is when that happens is usher them out of there. Now, yeah, there will be some people who might choose not to bring their kids into that environment, but that's a personal choice, for that individual. And I would say, hey, one fight is not indicative of 63,000 other people who are in that stadium who, might be behaving appropriately. And that's where I'm saying, like, you've got to use some degree, some modicum of common sense and odds making and saying that, hey, this is an unfortunate, but not a common occurrence to the point where I have to be.
Okay. Can I throw one point out? Here's what troubles me. What troubles me is the only incidents we hear about are the ones that are recorded or if it's somebody kind of well-known. This was recorded, obviously. The one I remember, Joe Dieter's son, got beat up without him. Just a bunch of people just beat him up, I think, at Taste of Cincinnati. And, sure, they got the guys because it's Joe Dieter's, okay? But my question is, other than the ones like that, how many of these incidents are there where we never hear about them?
Every single night that there's a bar.
Let me finish. I mean, I know two different people over the last couple of years who've told me that they got attacked downtown. Now, does that mean is everybody?
So what's their definition of attack, Phil? What's their definition of attack?
They beat him up. I mean, broke teeth, just assaulted him. I don't think it was a robbery.
Can I answer this question? If you go out downtown, more than likely, before you leave, you're going to see a fight, especially if you're out in alcohol after 2 o'clock. Let's say after 2:30 when the club's left out. When you're outside, and I understand what Jack said about taking a lift and taking a bird, the next pushback is going to be, that's what happened to the Russian. He was outside. They were waiting outside for a bird when they got victimly attacked by this angry mob. And it's Fox News that puts this out there. And then the people listen to it. Half the MAGAs listen to it. And I believe, and Jack's statements on this show backs up my thoughts. White America know the truth. They know the truth. But when it comes to pushing narratives and when it comes to pushing their narratives when they get from Fox News, they get on code and they want to make Cincinnati seem like it's a bad place. But starting the litmus test, because you see what Trump just did in Washington, D.C., following, because when what's his name? Big Balls got beat up. They pulled Elon's boy from Doge got beat up. Now they want to lock down Washington. This is like a tink effect. And the more white people that sit there and act like they don't know what's going on, and they sit there and start making excuses and make downtown like it's bad for isolated events, you're part of the problem.
Yeah, the other part of the problem, as I said, I just feel like there's a lot of bad actors that they got involved with this in the media space. And I feel like, it's an election year. And I feel like on the federal level, we know what's going on there. And I feel like when you have, so-called blue cities or states or whatever, that in some parts of the media, that gets hyper-focused and blown up. And I think it comes back to political reasons. But I'm from Cincinnati, born and raised. I was born at General Hospital. I went to the University of Cincinnati, met my wife there, raised my kids here. One daughter graduated from Cincinnati Public School. My son is in Cincinnati Public Schools. I'm invested here. And so, it just burns me up when I hear people in the media who, they get on their podcasts, they get on their platforms, and it's all negativity, pointing fingers. And to me, that's a telltale sign of people who are not prepared to do their shows. As someone who's done thousands and probably over tens of thousands of hours in podcasting, I can tell you, in 2 or 3 seconds whether somebody's prepared. And when people aren't prepared to do their shows, the easiest thing in the world is to talk about and complain and point fingers. That is super easy in the world. Negativity always sells. And people need to point this stuff out and call people out when they're not being they're not doing their shows with a certain level of integrity. People that really care about situations, they don't just bring negativity and point fingers. They actually bring solutions. They actually try to tamper down the tempers and the temperature, because they know that's what's best for people. When people have personal agendas and political agendas, they'll just say anything and try to fall back on people's ignorance because they don't really know what's going on. And those are bad actors who don't bring integrity to their craft, and they don't really care about the impact, because in a lot of cases they might not even live in Cincinnati. Like, how many of the people that you see on social media talking about Cincinnati actually live in Cincinnati? I don't mean work in Cincinnati. I'm talking about you live here. And the audience should
Are you
call
talking about
them
in the
out.
city, or are you talking about the
I'm talking
whole
about
region?
I'm talking about anybody, any and
Greater
all.
Cincinnati. You're talking about Greater
I'm talking
Cincinnati.
about
No,
anybody
the
that's on
world, the
social media.
world, Phil, the
I'm
world.
talking
I'm
about
asking
anybody
him when he
on
says they
social
don't live
media
here. I'm
that
asking if they live in Green Township. Do they live in Cincinnati?
is
We
Green
got people
Township,
watching this in
Cincinnati, or is it
Kenya.
Green Township?
It
We
is.
got people watching this in Kenya,
But
Africa.
I'm asking you, are you talking about the city line when you say
I'm talking about
Cincinnati?
the city lines. Yes, I'm talking about
Well, I mean,
Cincinnati. Yeah.
that's ridiculous. I'll tell you why that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I'd like to hear. Why
Because
is it?
I'll tell you why it's ridiculous. Because all those suburbs, you're right. The city of Cincinnati is technically, it's a municipality, doesn't include Green Township, Loveland, Norwood, blah, blah, blah. But guess what? Our city depends on people in the suburbs to come downtown. We need their money. Okay. So
That's great.
for you to say, hey, you live in Green Township, you have no right to complain. Yeah, you do, because people in those areas, we want to come downtown. We don't want to scare them away.
Phil,
So
Yeah,
Phil,
it's
it's
I
not
don't
that
think
you
it's
don't.
great
fair.
point,
So
Phil.
Phil,
Let
it's
me
not that
answer
you don't
him.
have
Let me
it's
answer
not.
what he's saying. You make a great point, Phil. You're absolutely right. And so perhaps, for the sake of that, I will include the greater Cincinnati area. But here's what I will say. There's a big difference between living in Green Township and living in Cincinnati. If you live in Cincinnati like I do, like so many thousands of people do, you are invested in the rise and fall of Cincinnati. And I think there's a greater investment, and I think you care greater where you actually live.
I don't
Okay.
deny that. I'm just saying you were criticizing people for kind of pointing fingers who didn't live here, and I was just
And I'm still doing
clarifying.
that.
Yeah,
And I'm
let me,
still
let me,
doing that.
Here's what I would say on
I'll go
Nathan's
back to you,
point
Kevin.
about people who don't live in downtown, because I said this
Or
before.
live in Cincinnati.
Yeah, I said that, or in Cincinnati. I said this before we even came on. Like, if you don't live here or you haven't been to Cincinnati, you can't comment on things that well, sure, you can, but your comment doesn't have any validity. Like, I feel like a lot of people who talk about how unsafe downtown is probably never even come downtown. They're watching what they see on TV and they have an assessment of what they think about downtown, but they've never set foot in downtown regularly. That's why I say, like, if you work downtown or you live downtown every day and you are out on the streets, you know what it is. But if I'm living out in Green Township or Westchester or Mason and I never set foot downtown, but maybe
Right.
once or twice a year, I have no concept of what it's really like beyond what I see on media. And we know media, as someone who works in the media, they never show the full picture. They show things when it's hot. The crime and whatnot, that's what leads the nightly TV almost every night. So when you're pumping those images into reader or viewers' minds out in the suburb every day, well, sure, they're going to have a certain picture that might not match the reality of it. So my thing is, you're entitled to complain, you're entitled to have an opinion, but it's not an informed one, because how can I talk about someplace I never go?
Well, can you have an informed opinion if you live in Green Township and you do go downtown from time to time? Can you have an informed opinion there, even though you don't live in the city?
Well, I would say this: if you live in Green Township and you go downtown from time to time and nothing ever happens to you when you make your visits, then you are really out of order in talking about how unsafe things are. Because every time you go downtown, nothing happens to you. It reminds me of the business that we wrote about, and I'm glad that this came back, because I meant to say this a couple of shows ago. The business who says suddenly because of the brawl, their employees are afraid and they're moving out of downtown. Now, I don't know how many years this business existed in downtown, but evidently for all that time, those same employees didn't feel safe now or unsafe. Now, because of one incident, suddenly we got to pull up stakes and move out of downtown.
How do you know they didn't feel unsafe before? It's just this question of degree. Maybe they felt unsafe, but this pushed them over the line.
If I've been in downtown for 10 years and I ain't moved, then obviously the safety wasn't an urgency issue, because if it was, I would have been gone. But how am I going to be downtown for 5-10 years as a business and my employees are scared to death? As they said, if that's the case, I would have been gone. But see, that's the type of knee-jerk, over-the-top reaction that you get in these situations from bad actors.
You're saying
the guy who said he's moving his company, he's a bad actor?
I'm going to go back to what Phil.
I think yes, absolutely. I would say that. I would say if you have that kind of disingenuous, I would say if you have that kind of disingenuous, knee-jerk reaction, yes, I call that bad acting.
And the bad actors are not just doing a knee-jerk reaction in local Cincinnati. This is an international news story. This isn't just and we're trying to localize this. We've got our podcast is reaching Africa, Kenya, Africa, and they're listening. They're saying, this is the narrative that was put out. And this is the real narrative compared to what we're saying. So I believe that we have an obligation to be truth tellers in this situation, not just for Cincinnati's sake, but for internationally. When people are in LA and they're saying, oh, Cincinnati's got a baseball game or a football game, and they want to come here, we have an alternative voice than Fox News and these pundits that are out there trying to win an election. So Nathan is absolutely correct in my part about the validity of podcasts like ourselves getting out there and spreading the word.
Listen, and again, if you live in Greentown, sure, in the suburbs, I mean, are you connected? Yeah, but you're not as connected as the people who actually live here in Cincinnati.
Whether they're connected or not, we depend on their tax dollars. That's where
we can depend on their tax dollars, but they are not as connected and they are not as invested in the rise and fall.
So what?
They are to me, so what? That's the whole point, Phil. They don't care as much. That's the point.
They don't.
You don't live in Cincinnati. You are not as invested, and you do not care as much as what happens in Cincinnati.
I agree, but take the example. I totally agree. The example of the guy who's moving his company.
Yeah, I saw that.
Whether you think he's a fool, if he's just whether he has bad attitude, all I know is whether his perception is such that we are going to lose the tax revenue from every member of that company, because there's a city tax, as you know, when you earn money in the city. That is a fact.
But
and
you know what?
Say, well, I don't care. He's a bad actor. I don't care what he does. Well, I can tell you this, the people who count the money in the city of Cincinnati, they do care.
I'm glad you said that, because what is lesser talked about is the fact that there is $1 billion company that's about to come to Cincinnati. So, I mean, it happens every day. Companies come and companies go in Cincinnati. This company's leaving. A company with $1 billion valuation is coming to Cincinnati. So I think it all evens out. I mean, that's his right. I don't know the man well enough. When I first saw the article, I thought the timing is very suspicious to me. All of a sudden, because of this, and you weren't even touched by it. But
again, you don't know if it was building. They've had a couple earlier murders that Jack referred to.
Right.
Maybe it was building, and they said, "Okay,
that's fair." I think that's fair. Maybe it was building.
You don't know what their attitude was before.
I'm just telling you. You're right. I fully admit. I said that. I don't know what his attitude is. I'm telling you what my attitude was when I heard about it. And there is a company with $1 billion valuation that is coming to Cincinnati. So this happens. Companies go, companies come for lots of different reasons. It is what it is.
I just wonder if it's part of a bigger thing, though. The fact that Senator Moreno has jumped in on it, and to a lesser extent, Vice President Vance, and going back to Troy's point, with the takeover of DC, and obviously Trump said that he had other cities in his mind, Oakland, I think, and I can't remember where else, Baltimore. Is this part of a larger picture? I mean, is a talking point now that MAGA is jumping on, and is Cincinnati getting swept up in it? It's like, hey, we want to advance the narrative that cities, and particularly blue cities, aren't safe. So, oh my God, look at this video, man. Let's run with it. And I can't help but think that that's going on. I mean, I just can't help.
If I could say, guys, as you probably know, Jack is the top First Amendment attorney in Cincinnati, if not Ohio, and nationally known. We don't have. I mean, I was going to say, I think I'd be interested in your take, Jack, on the threats from the Trump administration to our First Amendment freedoms, such as blacklisting the law firms, firing prosecutors who happen to handle January 6 cases. And now, as you know, they're censoring any books out of any public libraries, military libraries, park libraries that say basically anything about slavery or anything bad about the country. So I'm just curious about your take as a First Amendment expert on what kind of risk this country is in.
Well, there's a chilling effect for sure. I mean, that's a term, chilling effect, that people talk about when they talk about the First Amendment. The chilling effect is that you don't just punish people who say something that you don't like. You intimidate others to not say something you don't like, and that is happening. I mean, that's happening right in front of us. I mean, I think about the law firms who've capitulated to Trump,
and the universities as well.
I'm sorry, and universities as well. But the law firms who have not capitulated to Trump have won in court. They're 5-0, and they're going to continue to win. But the others that capitulate sounds a little loaded, but who settled with Trump, did it, I think, because they were worried about their self-preservation, and you think about what he was able to do with those executive orders with law firms, freeze them out of government contracts, freeze them out of government buildings. So now I'm a client of that firm, and I need a lawyer who can effectively represent me when I'm dealing with the federal government. Am I going to continue to use that firm? And so, you've got the firms that, thank God, have fought him and they've won. You've got the firms that have settled, and then you got all the firms sort of in the middle there who are maybe not speaking out, maybe not doing the kind of pro bono work that needs to be done because they don't want to cross the administration. Think about Children's Hospital and the chaplain who was detained by ICE and who's up in Cleveland now, and then two other chaplains one who spoke, who didn't, to even say spoke out in support. She really just said, "He's my friend. I feel bad." If you watch the video on Channel 9, that's all she said, really, was, "I feel bad for him, and he does a lot of good work, and this is a safe situation." She gets fired. And then another chaplain who participates in the protest over at the Roebling Bridge, and he gets fired. Children's Hospital last year got $160 million in National Institute of Health financing. And I think they are being very careful. And again, if I were running children, and Children's Hospital is a world-class institution. We're so lucky to have Children's Hospital in Cincinnati. And to have them sort of hamstrung by fear, really, by the concern over what could happen if that NIH funding goes away or if other funding goes away. That is the chilling effect. We are seeing it every single solitary day. I'm lucky, frankly, that I'm at the firm I'm at, because I think if I were working for some other firms in Cincinnati, I wouldn't be allowed to be on this program or probably write some of the things that I've written. And I feel very confident in that. So that, yes, Phil, I mean, that's a huge concern. And it's just, and again, so this notion that, cities with Democratic mayors are just unsafe. Look at that video in Cincinnati. Look at the National Guard in D.C. Look at Chicago. Look at Oakland. Look at Baltimore. I think it's a talking point. I think it's going to be something that is used for the midterms. I mean, just think about how every time an election was coming up, whether it was the 2022 midterms, whether it was the 2024 presidential election, What did you see on Fox News? You saw the B-roll of the caravan. That caravan seemed to disappear the minute the election was over. This video from Cincinnati is like the caravan video. We will see more and more of it, because it's designed to scare us. I mean, if you've ever seen the movie The American President, it came out 20 years ago. Michael Douglas, he gives a speech at the end of that movie where he talks about, that's the strategy: scare you and get you to vote based on fear. I said in my opinion piece the other day, hope is not a strategy, but neither is fear. Fear is not a strategy either, but it's being utilized. So.
But Jack, let's, and I would just add on, I don't disagree with anything that you just said. I would just add a little qualifier on there, is that the idea is to scare white Americans. I mean, I can't be more clear on that. It's not designed to scare minority groups or anything like that. This Cincinnati video is specifically engineered, or is being played up the way that it is to specifically scare, white Americans. And every person, by and large, that I've heard talk about being afraid to come downtown is by and large Caucasian, right? Like, I mean, most Black people that I know are not that overly concerned about safety in downtown. This is purely aimed at, and this has been the MAGA strategy all along. I've said that the MAGA platform has been white fear and grievance. That's what Trump has run on. That's what he's won on. And that's all this is it plays into that narrative to make white folks feel unsafe. Because let's face it, they when white folks come downtown, I'm just going to put it out there. I'm going to say it. When white folks come downtown, they're not scared of other white folks who are downtown. They're scared of Black people who are downtown.
They're scared of criminals. I don't think that's true. They're scared of being attacked.
Phil, I guarantee you, if you ask Phil, come on, man. Let's be real. When you say the word criminal, what race comes to mind to most white folks? It ain't a white person. I guarantee you that if you did some type of bias test on white folks and you said criminal, they don't see somebody that looks like them. They see somebody that looks like me. Right. And if they were honest, which is the problem that I have with all of our racial conversation, is folks refuse to be intellectually honest about what they really feel and think, because they know is messed up. So let's just go ahead and be clear about that. This is aimed at scaring the bejesus out of white folks and making them feel uncomfortable about Black people downtown. And that's what it is. And that's why that video went viral nationally. And that's why the Republicans and MAGA are leaning into it.
And there's not going to work because there was bad actors going on. If there's too much bad acting, and the more I see the videos and the more they start parading Holly around on her tour of, trying to get the Holly bill passed or whatever they're trying to get done with Bernie and her, there's cracks. She keeps cracking. And she hadn't been even asked any hard questions and she's cracking. She's been tossed softballs and she's cracking. Wait until the election gets closer and she got to start answering some real questions from some real journalists. Let me talk to her and say, what were you doing there at 3:00 in the morning? You were waiting for.
Doesn't matter what she's doing there. What does that do with it?
If you were so Phil,
if you have a right to not be knocked to the ground, if she
I don't have a right to ask her questions why she was throwing punches and got knocked to the ground.
Oh, well,
see, this Phil. This is when we go backwards. When we start talking about race relationships, if we just keep it on an intellectual level to where you see things in a mature, logical, interpersonal communication level, to where you say, okay, I'm gonna drop my biases and I'm gonna listen to this person over here on the side until it. And Phil, you're a prime example of whenever it doesn't work. But if you take your biases out and you say this girl is on video downtown amongst a place to where, she's out of place. Not saying out of place. You can be anywhere. You can be anywhere.
What do you mean she's out of place? What's that?
Okay,
mean?
I'll just speak for you. If it was me and I was at a Klan rally, or I was at a tractor pull, if I was at a tractor pull and I walked out there,
so you're saying because she was white, she should expect to get beat up? Is that what you're saying?
Let me finish, Phil, because you do this all the time and you're a master at this. But I'm gonna finish this, and if you can manipulate these words, then you're a good man. If I'm at a tractor pull and I walk up to some yahoos and I smack one of them and call them an N-word, every Black person around me is subjected to get to get knocked out. Even the black woman who's with me is
Okay, so
subjected
you're
to
saying
get
because
dragged.
the white guy used the N-word, slapped him, she should expect to get beat up. That's what
No,
you're
I
saying.
don't say. I'm not
I
saying
thought
she
that's
should.
what you said.
I didn't say that. See, you tried to manipulate. I'm saying a clear, logically thinking person would say, "Hey, actions and reactions, not actions. Oh,
So again, but you
poor
seem to be
victim."
saying that woman was somehow at fault. That's your point,
No,
right?
I'm saying she's a bad actress, and if I had the opportunity,
What do you mean a bad actress? What does that mean?
When the truth comes out and she's a bad actress, and if I had an opportunity as a
What do you
journalistic,
mean?
as a
Do you mean bad actress? She broke the law?
as a journalist, I would definitely press her harder than she's being pressed. I would.
But what do you
her
mean
harder.
she's a bad actress? What do you mean by that? She do something wrong? What?
I'm saying when she's in front of the cameras, how long is she going to be able to keep frame? How long is she going to be able to keep victim frame? How long will she be able to keep victim frame? She won't.
Okay. Well, again, you're making accusations against her, and I don't even know what those accusations are.
You're defending. You're being the same person who I'm saying it's hard to get past in white America. You feel you're being that whenever I'm saying.
What is the thing that I'm missing? What am I missing?
You're missing logical thinking. Jack on his show, he just came on. He just came on. Okay, there's ways to avoid getting in trouble downtown or getting into a fight and being at a Holly situation. Number one, the company you keep.
You're saying she's somewhat at fault for it. That's what you're saying, right?
If you're downtown after witching hours, hanging out with questionable people, and then you get in the mix and you're throwing punches, you're likely to get hit back. And what happens when you throw punches, you're likely to get hit back. You can't play the victim after. And when they slow down the video field, that's what I'm saying. The acting part of it is gonna be like, okay, so why is your arm doing this? When they slow down this stuff and they start asking these hard questions, if she ever has to answer, I think they're gonna keep her isolated.
I got news for you. If this goes to trial, she'll definitely be cross-examined.
Well, let's
for
go.
Sure.
And when that happens,
I don't know. Did the video show her throwing punches?
See,
I didn't see it.
Yeah, okay.
You're saying she threw punches. The fact that she was there, your idea that she's there with the bad group or something. Hey, that is no justification for being beat up. But
here's where I think people keep. Here's where I think
video shows she threw
let
punches.
Let me answer the question. The video that I saw didn't see her throw punching with the man who hit her. The video that I seen saw her getting to an altercation with the female right beside that. The fight had de-escalated. She had went her way. She came back around and turned back around like she was going to engage again. This is from my perception that I'm allowed to have. I'm allowed to watch this video.
You can't make up your own facts, Tarris.
I can have my perception.
But you can't make up your own facts.
You know what a fact is? You know what my fact is? I seen a video and I got my perception out of it. Just like J.D. Vance's facts when he didn't say, I didn't see all the video, but what from my perception on Fox News is these animals and thugs are attacking innocent people. Did you say the video
shows her throwing punches? Yes or no?
From my perception. From my perception.
Here's what I think people are missing, and this is why we wind up talking past each other, right? Like there are those who will say they didn't deserve what they got, right? And there may be some truth into that, right? Like you could say that the use of force that was used on whether it was Holly getting punched in the face by the guy or the guy getting stomped by 6 people, I think we could all agree that the use of force that was used against them was not proportional to whatever it was that they did. But that's separate and different from somebody saying you put yourself in a position to perhaps have the circumstances turn out that way. So if there is a fight going on and I interject myself in that fight, if I start pulling people off the pile or put my hands on other people in a brawl, there's a likelihood that I might catch a stray blow if I choose to insert myself into that, right? Now, it doesn't mean that I deserve to get hit because I may just be trying to get people off my friend or whatever, but I've put myself at risk of that by getting involved. Right, by putting my hands on other people who are embroiled in a brawl, they may turn around and think I'm trying to get on them and knock me out. I don't know. Like, there are a lot of things that we don't know in this fight. We just got to go off of what we see in the video. And so what I think Tarris and other people are trying to say is that Holly and the guy in question, they're almost being treated as if they have no responsibility for putting themselves in a position that gave them the outcome that they got, deservedly or undeservedly. If I interject myself in a situation, there's a chance that it might not turn out well for me. And that's a calculation that I have to make myself and take responsibility for, right? Doesn't mean I deserve it, but it does mean I put myself in that position. And so what I think people are saying is Holly and this other guy are being treated like they were just like they didn't have anything to do with what happened at all. And that is what's being rejected.
So
and
you're talking about what the media is saying. They're giving the perception that those two were not at fault at all. Is that what you're saying?
And you're,
Yes.
you're falling for it. And you're falling for it, Phil. And then whenever people try to have a conversation, you fell for it. I can't even have a conversation with you about me being a journalist and asking Holly hard questions without you making implementable statements that I think that she deserved to get hit. I never once in my life said she deserved to get hit. Never, ever, ever once in my life said she deserved to get hit. My question is, Miss Half a Millionaire, if you want to change laws and everything like that, what about accountability on your part of being out in the very place and time that you were at? You have accountability for being there. Let's answer some other questions besides these layups that you've been handed, especially $500,000 and counting. She deserved. We need more. We need more. That's a payday. I've had some of my clients tell me, I'll take a punch in the face like that for $500,000.
You're not saying she took the punch to get the money, are you?
No, I'm not saying she took the punch to get the money. I'm saying there was
she's not blamed for getting the money. You can't blame
she's
her
not
for that,
blamed.
right?
She's not blamed. I'm saying there's some opportunistic politicians that quickly moved in, and I'm not trying. And I've long gone past the rabbit hole of trying to figure out why Bernie Moreno jumped in on this so hard. I know he's a car dude. I know that Russian dude's a car dude. I don't know if they got some kind of connection that way. That the Russians
jumped in for the same reason Vance did. It was politically expedient. I mean, that's pretty obvious.
So how politically expedient? How
playing to his base? The base he's playing to his base.
So when he's seen that, how did they know to expedite it that fast? How did they know that? How did Bernie Moreno get that footage, get information to Holly, get to Holly, get her insulated?
How did that? He just saw the video, and he obviously took advantage of it for political reasons. I don't understand what you're asking.
Okay, Phil.
Well, you mentioned the media, and it's in terms of portraying Holly and the guy who started the whole thing as victims. It's not just the media. The FOP issued a statement yesterday about the question of why was the guy who started this fight not charged with anything? He clearly slapped the guy. That's assault. And the FOP was basically saying, well, we can't charge victims. And to me, it's like, well, I guess he became a victim, but he kind of wasn't a victim when he committed the crime. So
we went through.
If I start a fight and I get beat up, I'm not a victim. I am part of the altercation and the problem. So if I start a fight or I'm involved in a fight and I get beat up, I took an L. You learn that from the time that you are in grade school, from the first time you get into it with a bully or whatever. If you start it and you engage in it and you happen to lose, you are not the victim. You're a victim of your own actions. And I think that's the problem that I have here. And I said this on the last podcast, right? And this is a racial thing, pure and simple. And that's why people can't see past it. People want to say like, oh, we should feel bad about this, regardless of what the race of the person is. White, and I hate to continue to make this, and I don't want to make a blanket statement about all white people, right? I always have to give this caveat. When I say white people, if it don't apply to you, don't take it that way, right? So I'm not using that as a general term to encompass everybody, but I'm talking about whites who are bad actors. Okay, I'll just say that. who are disingenuous in the conversation. They always want everybody to take that stance when they're the victim. But when it's a minority victim, they always want to talk about accountability, right? Whether we're talking about Trayvon Martin, George Floyd, they always want to look at what was negative about that individual and use that as an excuse for why whatever unfair treatment they got was tolerable, right? Guy selling loose cigarettes on the street, he deserves to get choked out by the police, right? A guy on the subway talking trash deserves to get choked out and killed by a white man who's defending everybody else. Whenever whites are perceived under threat or the victims, they always want you to disregard any accountability that they might have in the situation. But when it's blacks, we always have to take accountability. Why is nobody saying that this guy who used the N-word and who slapped somebody, isn't he accountable for his actions and the results?
Whoa. What do you mean? Is he accountable or is he legally guilty of a crime?
I'm not talking about. Look, Phil. Let's take the legality out of it. Let's just talk about simple common sense and morality.
No problem.
Is he not accountable?
No problem there.
Is he not accountable for his actions?
I don't know what that means. Accountable. He's not.
So Phil, if you walk out into a street full of black people and you start using the N-word and you slap somebody, you don't have any responsibility. You say, wait a minute. Do you have any responsibility or accountability for what comes next? Okay, good. Every white person in Cincinnati, including people on the FOP, need to say and admit exactly what you just said. But they won't.
Then we can move forward. And until it's all black people's fault, we can't never move forward. As soon as there's accountability and you just said,
if you can get Ken Clover from the FOP to admit what you just said, Phil, then you might have a shot at getting reelected again because you're a hell of a persuasive.
I don't live in the city, but.
Hold on, Phil. Hold on. Let me ask you a question. One question, Phil. You told a story last week about you going. You did this. You went to the black preachers and you got your curfew passed. You went into the black preachers and you said, "Hey, you did your pitch." And they did. If you would have walked into those black preachers and they're men of the cloth, and you started hurling off the N-word and smacked one of them, do you think, even though these guys are men of the cloth, do you think you would have walked out of there unscathed?
Well, I wouldn't have got the curfew pass. That's for sure. I can't say whether they would beat me up or not. I don't know.
Deflect. I can tell you right now, they would have sanctifiedly drug your butt out of here. You've been wearing gator boots all up and down your face.
Hey, let's flip it, Phil. Let's just say me and Nate the Barbarian roll up into a MAGA rally, right? Right after Donald Trump just got done giving his punch him in the face speech, and we start throwing out all kind of derogatory terms at white folks. What do you think's gonna happen to us?
What's going to happen?
You think they're just going to escort us out and turn a blind eye?
No, I don't, and I don't. You're right, but and I think, I think one of the things that
and do you think we would be portrayed as victims in that sense if we got the hell beat out of us?
Put it this way: I can't say how you'd be portrayed, but I will say that one of the things that disgusted me about Donald Trump from the beginning was basically his endorsing violence, starting at those rallies. So he deserves a heck of a lot of blame for it. I'm concerned.
Can I give Jack? I want to go back to what Jack said because Phil, we spent the last two shows talking about this, and Jack came on and said that was an assault. When that man.
With all due respect, I'll talk to Jack. I'll say this now, Jack. You're a First Amendment guy. I will tell you, as a foreign prosecutor, that the elements of assault require physical harm. And we talked about this. You may disagree with me, but just a slap, unless you could demonstrate physical harm, is not an assault. Maybe disorderly conduct or something else. But as a foreign prosecutor, that's my opinion.
Well, like I said, I don't do criminal law, but I mean, I saw the guy reach out and make contact with the guy's face.
Requires physical harm.
Okay, I'm gonna put you on the fire. I got to put you on Front Street, Phil. But you standing your guns. I like that. Jack, I don't know if you're gonna stick around for the rest of the show, but we're gonna move on to some other topics. I mean, some local stuff. You're more than willing to stay.
Can I throw out one thing that Jack might have an opinion on real quick, if you guys don't mind? Sure. Because in the course of discussion, we talked about somebody brought up, or maybe tangentially, about Trump sending the troops out on the streets of Washington, D.C. And again, Jack, whether he may have a point of view on this, but one thing I would point out is I remember visiting Little Rock, Arkansas, quite often for family reasons. And I remember being told, at least at the time, that Little Rock had like the highest like murder rate in the country, something like that. Well, guess what? Do you think Donald Trump is going to send police down to the streets of Little Rock? Heck no, because it's a red state. It's part of his uh, it's part of his base. So if he did what he did across the board where there's serious crime, I could understand it better. But it's very clear he's selectively doing it in areas where his base really kind of dislikes the people there, for whatever that's worth.
Well, I mean, I'd be willing to take Trump more seriously if he hadn't pardoned the January 6th insurrectionists. I mean, it's pretty rich to be talking about violent crime and being soft on crime from the guy who pardoned everybody who was involved. Everybody who was involved, who assaulted police, who, desecrated the Capitol. And I'm sorry, but I have a hard time taking anybody who supports that very seriously when they want to talk about crime. I also thought that the FOP was a little disingenuous in their statement, talking about the judgment of prosecutors shouldn't be second guessed or something like that, or that, we're undermining the judicial system if we second guess these people. Well, they second guess judges all the time. I mean, just all the time. And again, I'm not saying judges are right all the time, but I'm just saying you can't out of one side of your mouth say you're going to undermine the judicial system if you second guess prosecutors, and then out of the other side of your mouth talk about judges who are letting violent, dangerous criminals out on the street too easily. It's hypocritical. So
that's a good point about January 6th. Excellent point.
Yeah, that is a good point. But Jack, are you willing to stay? You got to go off.
I'll stick around. That's
okay.
fun.
So let's talk about Iris Rowley. So Iris Rowley.
I'm ready for this one,
let's
guys.
get straight into it. So
I'm
Iris
ready.
Rowley. Looks like there's some people who were coming after her, and this podcast has been referenced in the news because she was on our podcast. Our crew member, Brother Andre Ewing, was on, and they had a back and forth. It's actually in this article in Cincinnati.com. That particular episode is actually referenced. And, just for people who may not know, that's the nature of what we do here. As you can see, I mean, it's a debate and discussion format. And, we don't want it to get personal, but we're all adults. And I felt on that day, you may have gone farther than I wanted to, but I thought it was still within the bounds of what we're trying to do here. But there is a serious push out there to get her to be removed as a
consultant. Good reason. With good reason.
We'll get to that. To be removed as a consultant for the city. As a matter of fact, there's been an update in that because Mayor Avtab was on the Lincoln Ware show earlier, and Lincoln asked him point blank. In fact, that was the first question. Bravo to Lincoln. Let's get straight to it. People want to know what's going to happen with Iris. And I'm just piecing this together. I haven't talked with anybody. I haven't talked with Mayor Avtab or anything like that. But it sounds as if it's not black and white. It's not an open and shut case that she's going to no longer be a consultant. It sounds like there's a conversation going on. It sounds like there's a conversation going on between her and the city manager right now, and perhaps they'll come up with some agreement. But there's a couple of videos out there in terms of her interactions with Cincinnati police officers, and people are saying that she was interfering with the police. Now, let me give you my quick opinion. I do not believe it was interference because of who Iris is and what she means to the city and the work.
Did you watch the video, Nathan?
I did watch the video, and then I was sent.
You don't think she was interfering with
I do not believe it was interference at all. No, I don't. Because of who she is. If it was me doing it, me, Nate, that's interference. But I'm not Iris Rowley. I'm not the leader of the collaborative. I'm not the consultant.
She has no right, no matter what her position.
Can I get it all out, Phil? I understand. I know you're chopping the bits, but let me get it out for the people. It's not really for us. I mean, I think we all know what's going on here. But for people who may not know. So, but yeah, my opinion, wasn't interference. You might say that she was interceding, but I don't think it was interference because of the role that she plays. with the city, but some people do. So I bring it to the crew. What do you think when you watch the videos? Did you see interference?
Well,
Should Iris Rowley continue as a consultant with the city of
well,
Cincinnati?
let's look at the bigger picture here, okay?
Sure.
I had no idea when Iris was on this show that she was pulling in $100,000 a year from the city. Does anybody know how long she's been getting that? I'm just curious. Anybody?
Maybe a couple of years at the most.
And now, and by the way, it says this year alone she's already earned 200,000. I would first of all love to know. I had the impression, whether we agreed or disagreed, that she was kind of involved in some kind of nonprofit. I have no idea what they're giving her 200,000 for. But even putting that aside, I can tell you right now, anybody who did what she did in that video, interfering with an arrest, would know. She's lucky she wasn't arrested. Most people would have been. Her position as whatever she is, consultant to help the community understand city council, whatever the heck it is, she has no right to interfere in arrest. And I'll tell you this: she should be fired immediately for that. But I'll predict something. I'll predict she will not be fired. She won't,
Phil,
because
I just told you
I'll
that.
tell you why she won't be. Because I went through the same thing with Clarence Williams and other people when I was on. Because she represents a powerful political constituency, city council. It does not want to get cross. I predict they will pressure. Has nothing to do with the manager. The manager's probably fed up with her, but city council, I'll guarantee you, will be on the phone or in person telling that city manager, don't fire her.
I want to
With
ask
good
Phil,
reason.
let me ask Phil a real question.
First of all,
When Iris Rowley was on the show, Phil, she asked you, because I'm on the fence on this one. I'm being subjective. She asked you, she said, Phil, come to Smalley Park and I will show you the work that I'm doing at Smalley Park feeding these children. And she laid out a list of stuff that she was doing, and we didn't know how much money she made. She just laid out, she's like, I'm down here doing this. I'm down here. And she said, Phil, if you want to come help me feed I remember it. She said, Phil, if you want to come help me feed these children out here at Smalley Park, you're more than welcome. We be down here from this time to
I
this
did
time.
respond to that.
So,
I did.
cool.
I sent a text. I don't know who it was, Nathan or Kevin or whatever. And I'm not blaming them, but I specifically said I was impressed, assuming this was a nonprofit. Okay, assuming. I specifically asked for I said, I want to, in good faith, I want to send a check to support her work. That's exactly what I said. Nobody
I
got
remember
back to
that.
me on it.
Awesome.
But,
Okay.
but the point is, if I had known she was pulling in $200,000 already this year, and chances are, I'm assuming
that makes
zero.
zero sense, Phil.
Zero.
I
And
certainly
here's what you
wasn't
do.
gonna
This is
donate.
another thing. This is another thing that you do, Phil, that I'm going to call you out. That I'm going to call you out, and people like you, who share your complexion and ideology, always want to bring up how much money a black person is making when they get a bag, but how many in the pocketbook,
No, but for her, I beg it.
sweetheart, good old buddy, more than $200,000. $200,000 is a drop in the bucket compared to what some of your city
What is
council
she doing
people,
for it?
some of your city council buddies
I'll
in the
tell you.
past, sweetheart contracts and deals you guys are hooking your buddies up with every day, and you want to try to act like you ain't. Tell it to somebody who ain't been in the media for 25 years and see how y'all do it in politics over there at City Hall, Phil. So I'm not gonna sit here and let you try to talk about what Iris is making when
Did
we
you
know
guys know she
when
was?
we
was
know that
making
some of
that
your
money when she
buddies
was on the
some
show?
of your
Did you guys
buddies is
know?
getting paid.
We don't care.
Some of your buddies is getting paid over the table and under the table. Okay,
She
so
gave
we're not
the
going to
impression she was engaged in
that is
nonprofit
irrelevant.
work.
That is
It's a false
irrelevant to the,
impression.
what she's getting paid
Never
is
did that.
irrelevant to the conversation about whether or not she should have a job or not. That's just something you want. That's just some red meat you want to throw out
No, but
there
Nathan
because
said
you
because of her
because you
job,
want
she
to try to
shouldn't
throw
get fired.
shade.
Nathan said
You
that
want to
he
try to
did
throw
it.
shade on Iris because
You're-
she's raped you
Nathan
over the
said
coals a
because
few
of her
times
job,
on this
she
table.
should
But
be
hold
able
on,
to
let
do
me
that.
finish my thought here. Let me finish my thought here because I'm going to do to you what Iris can't because she ain't on here. Now, I'm going to give an objective look on this. First of all, one, Iris should not be fired. Iris has done more over 25 years. If you want to talk about what Iris has done in her work, not only through the collaborative, but walking Cincinnati through police reforms, Iris was one of the only few people when kids were acting up and down at Government Square, she was down there every day trying to keep those kids calm, putting out pleas for people to come down when a whole lot of other people, yourself included, Phil, a whole lot of people who want to complain about kids wilding out, but who ain't going to come out, step foot out of their house to go down there and make any difference. Iris was down there doing that.
Can I add a quick point? I don't want to stop you. Can I add a
Do
quick
you
point?
approve of what she
Not
did?
only was she down there, not only was she down there, everybody. Not only was she down there, Kevin, but she was coming out of her own pocket initially to help our babies in the city. She was coming out. I know this person. She was coming out of her own pocket to help our babies when she was down there. And nobody talks about the amazing success because nobody's talking about the teenagers anymore. That was Iris, fearless. She got more stones than 99% of men in this city combined times 10. And I don't care how much money. How much money do you put on not having another civil unrest? How much is that worth to you?
And it's priceless, Nathan. That's a great point. And so what I was going to say, Iris has 25 years of street cred and work that she's done. Her contributions to the city are without question, right?
She's been making $100,000 for 25
you might
years,
question it. Phil, you might question it because you don't know, and I don't blame you for not knowing. And a whole lot of people like you don't know what Iris does in the community and what she takes, even sometimes from her own people. So I will say, Iris's work over 25 years speaks for itself. That first and foremost is why she shouldn't lose her job. Now, let's address the videos in question. Yes. I have said this to Iris, even myself, and I feel like this, and I felt like this when she was on the show, when she had her interaction with Dre. I personally feel like sometimes Iris goes maybe a little bit too far, but I know where that comes from. I know that comes from her passion. I know that's from her passion for the people and the community and for standing up for it, right? It's not how I would do it. It's not how I would handle it, but I understand where it's coming from. So I can see how someone would look at that video of Iris and they say like, oh, she's interfering. But what Iris is trying to do, as I would use Nathan's terminology, is she's trying to intercede and she's trying to stop a situation that she sees from potentially getting out of control. Now, did she need to talk to the police officer the way that she did in some of those videos? Probably not, right? Like, that's where I say, like, but that's the difference between me and somebody and how somebody else would handle that situation. I would probably say maybe there was a better way she could have spoke and handled that situation to try to diffuse it. That would
maybe stay out of it
look in that situation. But if I'm going to be critical of Iris for anything, it would be that, not from trying to obstruct police from doing her job, but I think she's trying to keep somebody from potentially getting roughed up or winding up in a situation where they didn't need to, or trying to de-escalate what could have potentially been a toxic situation. Now, if you want to criticize her for it, if you want to say, hey, Iris, I'm not going to say that if the city manager was aware of this or saw this, that maybe there wasn't some conversation that should have happened. Pull Iris to the side and say, hey, I appreciate what you're trying to do here. I know where your heart is at, but this is what you can do or what you can't do. Looking at it objectively and fairly, that's what I would say. But should she lose her job behind it after 25 years of what she's contributed to this city?
Hell no. Go ahead, Tarris. Go right ahead, Tarris.
I don't know, Jack, but I would say, let's look at things from both sides. From the police officer side of it, Iris Rowley was in the wrong. Let's just be, she was in the wrong. She could have came in, she could have talked to the police officer in a better way. The police officer said, hey, I'm about to recite him. And she could have been like, okay, I'm gonna back off. She didn't have to take it that far. That, in my opinion, ticked off the police department and what was going on, her conversations she had on this podcast.
But how many incidents before has that happened? Do we know?
So we're going to talk about her negative interactions that you feel like she's had, or all the positive.
She's done it 30, 40 times.
Can I finish? Can I finish? So so we know where. See, Phil, I just admitted I did something that you can't do. I admit it. I'm looking at both sides subjectively. I can say Iris Rowley should have maybe stepped out because this police officer is a very calm police officer. She did her job with respect. She was handling things. She had it handled. She wasn't going to take the guy who missed a court date in on a warrant. She was going to recite him. She was walking him over to the car. But in Iris Rowley, when she interfered, that could have given that guy an opportunity to run, pull a gun. And the police officer has to keep their range of eye motion on the perpetrator at all times. So her stepping in is, in my opinion, she made it maybe step too far. That doesn't take away the love that I have for Iris Rowley and the things that she has done for this.
But do we know how many times this has happened before? I don't know.
Okay, let's move forward. Let's move forward. I'm not even listening to Phil at this point. So what we could do from his point, we could get mediation. Instead of going for this lady's job, let's do the things the logical, interpersonal communication way. Get Iris Rowley and her attorney in one room, the FOP and their attorneys in one room, and they work things out. You're an attorney, Phil. Get mediation in there. Mediation. Yeah. Every time I've ever been in mediation.
Let me tell you something.
And so
if I interfere in an officer
you get
making an
clear,
arrest,
you get clear
I'll get locked
guidelines of what you need to do. You get clear guidelines of what you need to do. You hand it over to Miss Rowley, and you say, Miss Rowley, we appreciate everything you do for the community, and we're going to move forward this way. And she says, okay, I agree to these rules. Let her be herself, and then everything's done and over. If they try to fire Iris Rowley in these hostile times to get J.D. Vance's brother elected, it's going to backfire in their face. So as if what they're trying to do is not.
That's why she won't be fired. That's why she won't be fired, because city council will make sure they don't.
Good. I think she won't be fired because, and again, here's my interest. I mean,
I've been in that seat. I know how it works.
I'm sure you do, and I respect your expertise and have to
and
just
you know what, Phil, and it works. And you know what, Phil, what you won't say.
I would say that my reasons,
how it works the other way.
My reasons for supporting Iris Rowley is about Iris, but it's really about the city of Cincinnati. Like, you don't lose somebody that's got that kind of expertise and experience because of a video. Because, and again, I'm sympathetic
to
the
officer. What if it's happened over a period of months or years?
Yeah, what if? But I still say, what if we didn't have an Iris Rowley?
You don't know.
I say, what if we didn't have an Iris Rowley? What if we didn't have a collaborative agreement? The cost of having another civil unrest would be devastating to all of the success that we've made so far. People try to make a big deal out of how much money she's making. I think she's underpaid, quite honestly. That ain't enough money for what she has to do and what she brings to the table. Iris Rowley she is the only person on the earth who can do that job. There is no other human being on planet Earth that can do that job, that has the experience and connection to Cincinnati, and you don't give that up because a few people are complaining because they don't like the way she talks. That would be the dumbest thing ever.
If she has interfered in arrests for the last 5 or 10 years, that's
you can't say that.
I didn't see interference.
I don't know if she has. I
didn't see interference. I saw someone trying to facilitate accountability. I saw somebody who was interceding.
Tarris said it well. He's right about that. She interfered. That's period. And if you or I did it, let me tell you something. If I interfered like that with any cop, I wouldn't get mediated.
You're not Iris Rowley.
I'd be in handcuffs.
You're not Iris Rowley, Phil, and you're not a paid consultant. If I did it, I agree. If I walked up to an officer like that,
an arrest that you're paid consultant has nothing to do with it.
It has everything to do with it. That is her job, to intercede.
So you admit that if you did it or I did it, we'd be arrested.
And we should be arrested because we're not Iris Rowley.
She's an exception. She's an exception. She is an
exception.
He just said that. Yes.
Yes, she is an exception because of her experience, and she's a consultant in what she brings to the table. I'll say it again. If you challenge, just tell me who it is. There is no human being on the planet who can do what she does and brings what she brings to the table. None. And I don't care who it is.
Even if that's true, she doesn't have the right to interfere with an arrest.
I didn't see interference. That's your words. I saw
you admitted, Nathan, that if you did it, you'd be arrested or I'd be arrested.
Because I'm not Iris Rowley. You're right. I'm not a paid consultant. I didn't start the collaborative. I don't travel the globe, share my expertise. I'm not her. So you're right. It would be different.
So it's different rules for different people. You commit a crime, but if it's her, she gets
there was no crime.
Let me just say this, Phil. You're not. First of all, Phil, you're not being reasonable in terms of accepting the context of the encounter. First of all, I'll just say this. Let's give the officer in that situation in question credit, because there is some recognition here that in terms of police community relations, there's kind of this recognition that, hey, this could have been an explosive situation. It could have been handled a lot differently. I think that it was handled as best it could be handled in that situation. Ideally, what you would like to see is that type of police community interaction that leads to the resolution of issues, that where if an arrest doesn't have to be made or something doesn't have to be escalated, I think that that's part of what the collaborative is trying to work towards, is a police community partnership where you can resolve some of these issues and not allow them to escalate into situations.
Was the cop arresting the person or just giving a citation?
I'm not sure about the
I
circumstances.
thought I heard the cop say, "I'm citing him," which
Yes,
means she's
that's
not
what
even
I heard too.
arresting the
Right.
guy. She's just
Yeah.
giving him a ticket. That's
Yeah.
all.
She was
Right.
reciting him for missing a court date. She was reciting him, and then Miss Rowley came up
She
at
didn't
the
lock
end.
him up.
She was
Right,
coming.
why does Iris have to interfere with that? She's giving the guy a
So
citation.
Phil, you're doing a double standard. You're saying, why did Iris have to interfere in something that she's paid consultant to do, but you're giving Holly a
if
pass
she's paid
for
to
interfering with
interfere with an
something
arrest.
because she was out drunk at 3:00 in the morning? Make it make sense to me.
Hey, so I was, a couple of things, just replying to Phil's point about different rules for different people. I mean, if I were there and I were that guy's lawyer and said, "Hey, what's going on here, officer? Do you have the proper paperwork, et cetera?" I think that would be not interference. I don't think that would be interference at all. And I think Iris has a position where she's got at least some authority to speak to the police. So I think there are different standards. It's not like somebody just came up and said, "Hey, run, I'll hold the cop's bike here," or something. I mean, she was sort of, I think, exercising her duty. So I think it's not as clear cut. The other thing, I guess, going back even to what we talked about the first segment, is kind of all or nothing mentality. City's unsafe, so I will never go downtown. Iris, whether she interfered or not interfered, must be fired. I think what Troy said, hey, there could be some middle ground here. Let's do some, talk to her.
But would you agree, Jack? It depends if this is a one-time thing or if she's doing it over
all
10
or
years.
nothing, like she must go, is part of the problem, I think.
Phil, here's what I would, to answer your question on that, Phil, this is what I would say. This is where the city manager and those in the other part of the city are held responsible. So yes, so if Iris has been called in numerous times before and it's been addressed with her that, hey, this is unacceptable commentary. So if you have a track record, a documented track record of misbehavior that has been addressed by the city, then you might have a point. But I doubt very seriously that exists. And so
if it doesn't,
even if you wanted to say after this incident that she should be written up, she should be put on warning or on notice, okay, maybe I might give you that, right? But to go from somebody did something that you didn't like to a fireable offense, that is crazy.
no, it's not something you didn't like. It's something that I would say is a violation of the law. But let's put it this way.
But Jack just explained to you the difference there. Just because you don't like it and you don't want to accept it doesn't mean you're right.
No, I think she's breaking the law. I think she interfered in a race.
Well, it doesn't matter what you think.
It obviously
matters,
wasn't
like
breaking
as
the
you
law.
said, Phil, it matters what the law is.
But
so why not charge her?
She picked the right
So
cop.
she
So
obstructed-
that's a
if
good
she
point. That's a
obstructed
good
justice,
point. I
then
think the
charge
cop
her.
should have charged her.
I want to say something.
But they didn't, did they?
Well,
to Miss
So it
Rowley,
don't matter
no.
what you think. It don't matter what you think, because that's what you say about again, to their point, that's what you said about the dude in the slap. It don't matter what we think. It matters what's legal. It matters what they get charged with. So Iris didn't get charged, so it don't matter what you think, Phil.
And I want to say to Miss Rowley too, if she watches, if you're listening.
Shake your head and
Please.
roll your eyes all you want to, brother. I'm using your own
Hold
logic
on.
and words
Let me get
against
this out.
you.
Miss Rowley, if you see this and you're watching this video, please don't do that again. Please never do that again, because they got a target on your back. So if you have a, please, Miss Rowley, move with cautions. You're too important to us. You're too important to us. If you pull that on the wrong cop, they're going to arrest you, and they're going to arrest you, and they're going to be like, you broke the law, and deal with it. And she can fight it, she can beat it, but let's just avoid all that. But let's just having some decorum. Let's get together in a room together and make some guidelines of what the decorum is. Let her be herself. Let her do her job, and then come to a happy medium. Because this Cincinnati is not the same place without Iris Rowley patrolling the streets.
And here's where Phil is. Phil is just like the rest of the sharks that's circling and feel like there's blood in the water right now. And that's really what this is there a whole lot of people, a lot of them on the police side of things, who don't like Iris and who don't want her around and have been looking for an opportunity to get rid of her. And so the brawl is kind of an opening for, police are now in high demand and are popular right now, and they're pressing that advantage. And it's amazing how we go from the brawl to now Iris Rowley should be fired. It's amazing how, the politics of this situation kind of roll it right into that conveniently, isn't it, Phil? That this just kind of sort of comes out of thin air, out of nowhere, to fire Iris Rowley right on the heels of the brawl and police getting whatever they want from the city right now. The Sharks feel blood in the water, and just like you want to see that get back on Iris for how she raked you over the coals here, and you would love nothing more. You would love nothing more than to see Iris get her due.
Until I saw those videos, I didn't know she was. I had the impression from the way she described it that she was doing nonprofit work. But putting that aside, all I know is when I saw those videos, okay, I would never say, let's fire Iris Rowley because I don't like her politics, whatever. I kind of enjoyed the interaction with her. I would never say that. But I would think that any city official of any kind who interferes with the police in that manner, especially if she has a history of it, yeah, I don't think they should work for the city. That's my opinion.
I don't think that was interference. Again, I think that is everything's subjective. But I think the people who are calling it interference have an axe to grind with her. They don't like her for some reason. And, she may have the kind of personality because she don't pull no punches and she ain't backing up. So, and being a black female, that rubs people the wrong way. So I think it's a lot of that going on. I don't see interference because of who she was. If I did that, that's interference because I have no connection to the city. I'm not a consultant. I don't do that kind of work. I'm just Joe Blow, average guy, walking up and injecting my opinion. That's out of bounds. But that's a paid consultant for the city. In my opinion, she's underpaid. She should be getting triple the amount for what she brings to the table because she is the only human being on the planet that can do that. She's the only one on the planet. That is valuable. And I get it. And Kevin spoke to this. I mean, I'm sure if you're a Cincinnati police officer or maybe law enforcement in general, you're looking at her and she's coming in and making us do this and pointing fingers. I get it. I can understand it. If you look at any profession and somebody brings a consultant in that's given oversight over your job, nobody's going to like it. I don't care what field it is. And I get it. But on some levels, I feel like that tells us she's doing a good job. Maybe you're not supposed to like her. You liking her is not what her job is, in my humble opinion. Her job is something larger. And I think that her work has prevented, and if she's allowed to continue and we stay with the collaborative, it will prevent future civil unrest that could cost this city tens of millions of dollars. Tens of millions, if not more than that. That is invaluable. You don't just give that up because, she was talking tough with a police officer. You bring her in, you talk with her. You maybe set some new guidelines and standards, you move on. But when you have somebody like that, you also don't put a leash on them, right? They are who they are. And you got to take the good with the bad.
But that's what some of her critics want. Look, here's a backdrop, and I'm just going to throw this in, and you got to listen to it because even Dre said it when he was on this program. Right. There is a narrative, particularly in the MAGA circles, right, that there are these left-wing activists, right? This is terminology that has been used, and you can read it several times. It's appeared in our newspaper and comments that people have said that there are left-wing activists that are controlling the police chief and the police department, right? Brother Dre even said that. Who do you think they're talking about when they talk about left-wing activists? They're talking about Iris Rowley, and they are pissed off and they are mad because they feel like Iris Rowley has way too much power, way too much say, and way too much control over how police have to operate in the city of Cincinnati. And it plays into
she's a civilian.
It plays into this Democratic city crime overridden thing because the next thing you'll hear is like, well, the downtown brawl happened because you got people like Iris Rowley who are in the police chief's ear. This is the music that's playing in the background, Phil, here in the city of Cincinnati. And when you talk about the power base, right? Heaven forbid that black people in Cincinnati finally have a voting power base that makes people actually listen to them and the things that they want.
They did when I was on there.
Hey,
They did when I was
Bill,
on
you
there.
know what? That's politics. That's how it should work.
Yeah.
If I elect you to office, then daggone it, then you need to listen to me and what I want and who needs to be in charge, because that's why I elected you. So heaven forbid that black folks in Cincinnati finally have some sort of voting power base where elected officials have to respect them and listen to what they want.
I don't think finally is the right way to put it, because last time I was on city council was 2001, and things worked the same way.
You know, let me speak to this
that's
whole thing about.
However, let me
That's
just say one
politics.
thing about this. I do think maybe you've already asked him, because we had another issue involving the FOP where you might remember I strongly criticized them for supporting Donald Trump. If you haven't already, maybe you have, Nathan, I think having Ken, whatever his name is, Coble on, I think that'd be a good.
I'll reach
that'd
out
be
to him.
helpful.
Yeah, I'll reach
I
out
hope
to him
you
and
will.
see if
I'd
he's willing
like
to
you
come
to.
on. Yeah, I
Thank-
certainly. I promise I'll do it this week. I'll reach out to him and see if he's willing to come on, because there are some inconsistencies there, and I love to hear what he has to say. You know, that's what Pop Mike is all about. He might come on, we might argue, but at the end of the day, we agree to disagree and move on. But
Nathan,
I want to
it
go.
could be like the
Yeah.
time when you had me on your whatever show way back, and you ended up saying, "Gosh, that Phil Hemlich is such a nice guy," right? So it could happen.
Yeah,
Phil,
that
you got to
story, man.
recognize it took Donald Trump for Nathan to come to that realization. So it's not as great a compliment as you might think that actually is.
But you know, I want to make this point one last time, because people are trying to make a big deal out of the money. There's a reason why people like LeBron James, people like Steph Curry, people like Giannis, they make the big bucks, because they're doing something that only they can do. There is no other LeBron James in the world, and there is no other Iris Rowley. We are very, very lucky to have her there. The collaborative in Cincinnati is world renowned. This woman travels, taking the model that she and others developed here, and they're putting it in place in other cities. You don't give that up. And quite frankly, the more I think about it, $8,500 a month is nothing.
Give
Nothing.
her 10,000 a month. Come on, I'll raise you.
Oh, a whole 1,500 more, huh?
I'll
Actually, it
raise you
should
to
be
30.
triple or
How about that?
quadruple amount. It should be triple.
500,000 a year, $1 million a year. I mean, you know.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't be upset with that, because again, my question is, how much is it worth to prevent another civil unrest? To me, that's priceless. So take the good with the bad. Maybe, you know, everybody sometimes has to be, you know, maybe redirected, or maybe you sit down with folks and you come up with some new, some new ideas of how you want to move forward. But to give that up over a couple of videos, it would be shooting yourself in the foot as a city. It would just be plain dumb. And all of us, black, white, rich, poor, all of us would suffer because of it. In my humble opinion, this is just me, and I'm biased, but I must say that I'm very biased, but that's how I look at it. This is very valuable, and don't let these outsiders and these people with these political agendas force up to give up one of the things that makes us special. The collaborative makes us unique and special, and nobody else can facilitate that the way she does. And I'm just going to leave it like that. Jack, last word on this conversation. Any thoughts?
Well, I think I think Iris is guilty of contempt of cop, and that is something that a lot of cops just don't like. I was just listening the other day to Christy Noem talking about people assaulting ICE officers, but her definition of assault included videotaping them, effecting arrests. And I just think there's an element, and I think among police, that do not want to be talked back to, do not really appreciate pushback. So I think it was Troy saying, maybe Iris, if she is not liked by the FOP, is in fact doing her job, and that is maybe Exhibit A for that she is doing her job. So.
I got something something. If they want Iris Rowley out so bad, win, because they're using this as a political play to try to rile up their base. So if that's their play, and we know what they're doing, counter. If they come after Iris, make it important enough for the citizens of Cincinnati to know how important she is to the city of Cincinnati, and make them be the judge. If the DC AFTAB, then y'all can talk. Until then, shut up. Shut up.
It's an opportune time. As I said, they're seasoned on the brawl. They're seasoned on this moment of crime and Cincinnati sort of being under the microscope and the attack. And Iris and Iris and anybody else that they can get in the crosshair right now that they, they know they're not going to beat AFTAB in the election coming up. So they just want to, continue to dirty him up as much as they possibly can, to try to damage him for anything that he might want to do past this. The last thing I'll say, Jack said something interesting about what Kristi Noem considered assault against the police officer, which was videotaping. I would think if videotaping an officer could be assumed as assault, I think slapping a black man in the head certainly should be too.
Good point. Good point. Gentlemen, I'm not going to keep you any longer. I appreciate your time today. Jack, listen, you're one of the crew members now, so I'll reach out to you, see if you got time to come back on with another topic. Phil, thank you for the.
I do have to say, Jack, if I had known you were going to disagree with me like that, I wouldn't have said all those nice things about you.
Phil, you need. Is glad to have somebody.
I'm teasing. These are all great guys. Jack. You're a great guy.
Yeah, it was good. It was good to have somebody kind of logical and sensible on here that could not.
No, not. I wasn't the only one. Jack was on too. What are you talking about?
Hey, listen, everybody. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate you, Jack. Again, great meeting you, at least digitally, and appreciate you for setting Phil straight because he just thinks he knows everything. He thinks he knows everything because he has a law degree.
Yeah.
Now we got
I'm
somebody else
to question those credentials now. After some of the
I got the sheepskin on my wall.
Get our investigative team on that, man. Where'd you graduate from again?
It was Virginia Institute of
Trump University.
Yes, that was it. Yes,
you got your.
I got my money's worth out of it. Yes, that's.
Can I add one last thing to this Iris Rowley thing? Just because I just thought about it, right? I just remembered. So she's in this consultant position, but before that, the city had hired someone else in that position, and it just didn't turn out. I don't know. I can't say anything personal about the guy, but I heard through the grapevine it just didn't work. So it wasn't as if Iris jumped out there first. They tried someone else and it didn't work out. And then this opportunity came our way. And I'm glad she did. The city is stronger. We're all going to learn and grow from this, but you do not give up somebody like that in a position like that, considering our history, because of a couple of videos. It would just be foolish. I've said it already enough. I'll just leave it like that. But thank you so much for being here, everybody. We'll be back next Tuesday. And also, happy birthday to Mrs. Aldridge. Gotta say that. Absolutely. Because she allows Kevin to mess around with a guy like me. And I appreciate it. I really do.
Hey, can I say one last thing?
Are we off Friday? Is that what you said?
Yes, sir. I was about to say Kevin is going to be taking care of what he should be, the business of family. And so we'll pick back up.
I have told you I can play Kevin. It's just kind of a militant rhetoric.
There's only one Phil Hemlich.
It's not that difficult.
Just like there's only one Iris Rowley, there's only one Phil Hemlich.
See, that just goes.
Fortunately for everybody, there's only one Phil Hemlich.
That just goes to show how out of touch Phil is. He called my rhetoric militant. Now there are plenty of people, some in the chat, who would say that I come way too soft. Right? They think I don't come hard enough on here.
Well, you're judged by the company you keep, which I apologize for.
Oh, but Holly's not judged by the company she keeps. She gets a pass. She gets $500,000 eyeliner. Keeps putting that eyeliner. She gonna have that thing on there in 3 weeks. She gonna feel fighting that stuff on there.
But hey, Nathan, do this real quick before we go out, and so the audience can see it. Man, check out that promo for Tarris. That brother is clean, man. I love that hat, man. I was looking at that hat. I was like, dang, I gotta upgrade my promo photo, man. Every time you mean just let the audience see it one more time.
Right here?
Yeah, look at that, man. Look at that brother, man. Look at him.
Tarris, could I borrow the shades in the hat and the outfit? Because I think I might look good in that. Maybe that might be a good fit for me.
You still strike out. I'm just saying, bro. That was at no. I was at Keeneland. I was at Keeneland with a bunch of right wing state representatives that day. It was pretty cool, man. I was there with I can tell you, it's Americans for Prosperity, the Koch brothers. They invited me to the Keeneland, and I was hanging out with them. And I like it. Hey, they're supposed to be on the Epstein list too, so everybody gets it. Everybody gets it.
With that, thank you so much, everybody. We'll be back next Tuesday. Please like and subscribe and share. We really appreciate you, and have a great rest of your week.
Thanks, guys.